first off, everybody welcome. This is the first of hopefully many Unidos collaborative training opportunities. Today we're going to go over course design for Any LMS. It's going to be very basic best practices to kind of get you started on your next online course. And it's not just for online, so it's going to be beneficial for really any instructor that is curious about it, uses it, or sometimes uses it in like a hybrid setting. So we have three facilitators. Myself, I'm Fonz Velasquez. I am the Academic Instructional Technology Center designer and trainer here at Adams State University. I will let Miss Cathryn introduce herself, and then Mr. Peter, and we can get going.
Hi, I'm Cathryn Brooks-Williams. I'm the Instructional Design Specialist for New Mexico Highlands University. Peter?
And there's our next arrivee. Hi, everybody. My name is Peter Snyder, and I work at UNM Taos. I'm the Instructional Media Specialist here, supporting faculty in the use of Blackboard and any technology in the classrooms. I'd like to welcome Paula, and we just got a ding-dong. I'm not sure who it is that arrived. Their picture hasn't shown up yet. 1, 2, 4, 5. So that would be, I'm guessing that's Dan.
Hey, Peter, how you doing?
Hi, Dan. How are you?
I'm okay. Just came from a funeral.
Excellent. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
But otherwise, okay.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we're all here and well met. And you just missed being introduced to Cathryn Brooks-Williams from New Mexico Highlands University and Fonz from Adams State. And we've been working together to create a collaborative training opportunity for our respective faculty. And this is the first presentation. So thank you for joining us.
Good to be with you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so to start off, we'll go over, we have 3 objectives for this workshop. So after you guys take this workshop, we hope that you'll be able to observe and visualize the best practices of course design that will be most effective to use in your course designs. And we also hope that you guys will be able to identify the best practices of course design that will create an equitable learning environment for your students. And we also hope that you will be able to adapt the best practices in course design suitable for andragogic and pedagogical styles. Andragogic, that word's a little tricky. And so when you're going in to design your course for the first time, you have to understand that some of your students, this is going to be their first experience with online learning at all. Or even if they're familiar with it and it's just a new course that they've never been in before, they're going to feel really lost, almost like the Twilight Zone. That's going to cause a lot of frustration, obviously, for both you and the student. And so when you're designing the course, it's always a great idea to kind of design and build everything from the point of view of the student. You want to make sure that you're always keeping the student's point of view in mind. That way that, you're going to reduce that frustration and that confusion. And so we're kind of going to break it up into 2 different parts. The first part on basic course design, we're going to cover best practices that include computer requirements. You always want to make sure that your students know right away what computer requirements they're going to need to be successful. We're also going to cover the Quality Matters rubric and kind of what it is, where it came from, and how we kind of incorporate it into our campuses. We also want to cover accessibility and UDL. And then we also want to go over course orientation and navigation instructions and how they're a must in every successful online course. And we also want to cover obvious starting points. You always want to make sure that your students have an obvious place to start, as well as you always want them to have a way out. And we'll cover those in a little more detail here. So for the institutions, right now we either have Blackboard or D2L. So you want to make sure that your students are aware of the requirements that they're going to need in order to, even get into the systems, to even, function within them. So for Blackboard and D2L, you're going to need Java. It's a good idea to, every time you log into your computer and it bugs you for an update, go ahead and make sure you're keeping up with those updates. Same thing with Flash Player. And then sometimes if you're having an issue or your students are having an issue, remind them that sometimes if they clear out their cookies, sometimes that resolves the issues. For both platforms, Firefox is the recommended browser. It seems like, you know, the other browsers do work, but Firefox it tends to play the nicest. And both institutions, it's also, all three institutions, it's important to make sure that the pop-up blocker for Firefox is allowing Blackboard to have pop-ups. And then you also want to make sure that you're not having any firewall issues with either platform. If you are having any problems with the firewalls, you can contact, you know, AITC or, you know, the EOS Center. And then resolution is also important for D2L. And on the slide before, it gives you the exact measurements. As far as the technical requirements, it's also important to let your students know any other technology or any other course requirements that you need them to have. Examples of this could be webcams for proctored exams, payments for proctored exams, headsets if you're going to be using Collaborate or Zoom, any kind of special software that they're going to need, and then any related information for the course. So that could be like a course pack, publisher content, anything like that. And it's a good idea to let them know, you know, in the course syllabus, in the news or announcements area, or any kind of orientation that you're using. It's a really good idea to, you know, give them that right away. Now, I'll let Mr. Peter take over. He's going to go over Quality Matters.
My favorite topic. Quality Matters is just one of a number of organizations in the nation here that have created a set of standards that they consider best practice, certainly. And these best practices and standards are intended to act as a design template to help instructors develop a course quite literally from that point of view of the student. I'm fond of Quality Matters because that's the first thing I was ever introduced to. And UNM Taos does currently subscribe to the rubric. I know that Adams State does, and I believe that Highlands does not yet subscribe to Quality Matters. But you can find everything about Quality Matters by visiting their website. You will never find their rubric. It's very difficult to find because it's a copyrighted product that they sell. About $20 a rubric. If you Google Quality Matters standards, you may find those standards listed in other documents that other institutions have created. That's just a little tip. And, ooh, I want to wax poetic, but I'll spare you. And I've got lots of other information about other rubrics and other ways to get this information. For instance, UNM Taos has taken Quality Matters and the Blackboard Exceptional Course Program rubric and a couple of others and created their own course review package, so to speak, that works real well as a design tool. So the next topic would be, as we're starting to look at various Start Here pages, that I think that's one of the first things in the Quality Matters rubric is that there be a Start Here page, clearly marked in the course with clear information for the student about how to get started. And I absolutely cannot read the text on this right now. But what's here is Adams State's first landing page. When you hit Start Here, you end up on this page, which provides basic information to the student about how to access the materials in the course, what to look for in terms of technical support standards. I'm pretty sure there's a link there to Adams State support page. And I think most importantly, it talks about pulling down the rubric, pulling down the syllabus and printing it out, And I'm printing out the course calendar and then clicking on Start Here to get going. And the Start Here is in the upper right-hand corner of that page. Well, that's the example of one Start Here page. Accessibility and universal design for learning standards are very important when you're developing your courses for online. I don't know, I think the expectation is that we're not going to have students with challenges like being hard of hearing or having sight issues. But it's important to keep them in mind, because if your course is just launching and you discover that you have a student you have to make everything accessible for, it's going to triple your coursework right there. So you want to be prepared so that the course has everything it needs so anyone can take the course. Of course, a lot of the work that you have to do to make a course accessible for hard of hearing student or student who has vision impairment, a lot of these things are going to benefit all the students in the class, because I know it is for me. To be able to listen to what I'm reading is very helpful. It does make the courses all-inclusive. Each one of our campuses do have special site resources, on-site resources. Adams State's office is called the Accessibility Services. New Mexico Highlands has an Office of Accessibility and Training. And at UNM Taos here, we have the CASA Center for Academic Success and Achievement. So just some of the other simpler steps that you can take to make content accessible to your students is to turn your documents into PDFs before you load them up into the course. PDFs open quickly and easily on any phone in Blackboard, any tablet, they just pop right open. They're easy to save to your computer at that point, and that tends to be a little more, a little simpler for students to deal with. When you're using videos, it's best to embed them instead of putting links in your course site. And embedding them means taking the embed code. YouTube has a link. When you go to any YouTube video, you click share, and there's an embed code that you can copy and paste into your course from the, not CSS, from the HTML page. And it makes for a real pretty little postage stamp style video that you can click on and it plays right there in the page. Talking about readability means talking about text size, fonts, sans serif are the best fonts to choose. And animations, when we're talking about animations, we're talking about avoiding animations that are going to set people off, avoiding loud flashing, bright lights, changing colors. You just have to be aware that you might engage other people's, you want to prevent epileptics from being set off, etc. This little website here is a checklist of checkpoints for web content accessibility guidelines. And you can get more information there. And of course, now my tab is hiding, and I just turned off share, didn't I? Clever boy. Okay. Just one more second while I get back to that presentation tab. There we go. And so the next topic is, I think we're transitioning on to Cathryn. It is. It's Cathryn's turn.
So one of the things that we have expressed is that you need a Start Here page, okay? And in the Start Here page can have like what ASU does, where it takes the students through the course on a logical basis. Another way you can set up your Start Here page is to have like what we set up here in D2L. You have your syllabus and your course calendar in the Start Here. Okay, so what's your main reason that you want to start your page is put all the course information that your students are going to need before they open up any course content. Okay, so some ideas are course orientation and navigation. If you have course FAQs, I find those to be handy to answer a lot of questions, so I'm not dealing with a ton of emails from students saying, what happens if I don't get Excel? Or what happens if I only have part of an Excel? The course FAQs can give them those answers right away. Another one is course resources. So if you are having extra resources for your course, you can have them go look in there. You're setting up an APA page, or APA links, you can set them up in there inside of course resources. Contact information, how to contact me, when to contact me, how to contact our ADA, how to contact our EOS office, just the basic contact information that students need. Also office hours. We all like our office hours, but we can post them right there so the students can see them as well as have them in the syllabus. And then it's always important, especially if you're teaching online, hybrid, or you're having discussion posts in your face-to-face class, to have Netiquette. Another way that we looked at it was to look at the 3 different courses from all 3 institutions and see all their different Start Here page and where they start. So these are all the menus that we're looking at. It's really important to have a welcome video. The main reason being is because you're going to welcome students into your course, kind of like when you welcome people to your home. This is their first glance at you and your course. So you can take them through your course by giving them an orientation and navigation on how to work through your course. This is really important if you're doing online or hybrid courses, but I can't emphasize that it's also equally important for face-to-face. We have 2 different examples from the D2L and Blackboard. Mine was using Screencast-O-Matic and Fonz was using Echo 360. So check with your EOS or your IT department of what's available in your campus. If you're not comfortable with doing a video, you must have some kind of way for the students to orient themselves to your course, okay? Peter gave a wonderful example here. He has getting started. He explained that they're never alone, and then he wrote out a course map so students can find what they need under each section. It's very easy to do. Another way to orient students to your course is to do a course overview. This is an example from mine in D2L. And basically what I do is I explain, hello, welcome to Gen Ed 605, Statistics for Educators and Counselors. And then I explain what the class is about. So there's comprehension levels that the students can check themselves. We have review sessions, okay? Time management is important. I also include my office hours. And I also include other little information that they need. And notice I break up the heavy text with some graphics. And I believe Fonz takes over from here. No, I take one more. So what's also important is that your faculty or your students and your faculty have a way out. Both D2L and Blackboard have these wonderful little breadcrumbs. So I showed you the menus that usually appear on the left-hand side of the screen in Blackboard and D2L. Here's another way out for breadcrumbs. So they can go from their basic to whatever section that they need. Now I'll turn it over to Fonz.
All right, so the second part of the basic course design that we'll be covering is going to focus heavily on modules. So it's a good idea to set everything up in a module and put everything that needs to be in that module inside of it. So anything that the student needs to do or access should be inside that module. It's also important to use consistency. You don't want to throw students a curveball and have them guessing what to do next. It's also a good idea to observe conventions. You have to focus on your visual presentation. And then we'll also cover some student engagement tools that the different platforms use. And then we're also going to cover redundancy and its importance in design. So a module is a way to collect all the information into a container. A learning module should always have some type of overview. And in that overview, it's a great opportunity for you to do the student learning outcomes for that module. You should tell your students what to expect in that module. And you should also list all of the module activities. So, every single course activity that they're going to have to do should be kind of laid out for them. This is also, in the modules, you should have some type of lecture, whether that's a video recording of a lecture, your lecture notes, or a PowerPoint. And then you can also list any of the activities for engagement, like a discussion board, any wikis or journal tools. You can also have assessments in there. Assessments in both platforms take many forms. So you can have a quiz, a self-assessed quiz, or a graded quiz. You can also have an assignment that they submit. That's also a type of assessment. And then it's very nice at the end to have some type of review. That way they can go back and see, what they learned during that module. Students always want to know, why they're doing what they're doing. So it's nice to kind of lay everything out in the beginning as their overview, and then at the end to kind of tie it back together, like this is what you learned, and then go on to the next one. So the way you can set up modules, some people, these are 3 different examples. Some people will kind of go over a concept. So, you can do, Unit 1 is going to cover a certain concept that you're going over. Unit 2 is going to be the next concept. An alternative would be weeks. So Module 1 is what the students will be doing in week 1. Module 2 will be week 2, and so on. Another way you can organize modules would be chapters. So, Chapter 1 could be, you can go over Chapter 1 in Module 1. The next module may have Chapters 2 and 3. And so these are just 3 different examples of how you can organize your modules. So this is a really good example from Cathryn on how you can have your module start up. So the students will click in, they'll go to Module 1 or Unit 1, Module 2. The first thing they'll see is what they're going to be, what their outcome is for this module. Another great thing that Cathryn does here is she tells them what they did last module. So she's going to kind of tie everything together. She's going to say, do you remember what we did last module? Well, we're going to build on this module. And so this is some content that Stacy over here at AITC created. And so you can see here, she has her module objectives is the first thing that the students see. She also kind of has a little bit of kind of her 2 cents as far as, what concept they're going over in this particular module. She has a little graphic that's just kind of, lightens up the mood a little bit, something to look at to break up the text. And then she lists, what assignments they're going to be doing. They have a discussion assignment and a written assignment for this module. All right, and so this is an example that Cathryn shared with us. This is for D2L. So this is kind of what the module looks like on the outside. So students will click in, they'll see, the course objectives. The next thing would be, the visual there, and then they're going to click on the unit, and it's going to download like extra content from outside the course that they'll use. They also have a self-assessment and a quiz. And since it's from the outside, students will click on this stuff, click on the links for the activities, and it's going to take them into that activity. But everything is contained in the one module. They don't have to navigate out to find all those activities. And so this is an example of Blackboard from the outside. So everything is very linear. What's nice about Blackboard and D2L as well, when you're creating activities, it's going to be created, a table of contents is going to be created that the students can access, so they can kind of skip around by clicking on the different activities or going to the table of contents and clicking around the table of contents. And so here's an example from UNM Taos, where the outside of the module is Module 2. It lists the outcome. Once the student clicks in, they're going to see everything linearly. They have their assigned readings, their quiz, their Module 2 discussion, and their Module 2 assignment. And you can see their table of contents there as well.
Clever. And we're back. Oh, a nice recovery too. Oops. Hi, everybody.
There we go.
You're destroyed.
And so this is an example of what happens when the students click on those activities. So they go into the module, they're going to see everything very linearly. They're going to see the table of contents. But when they click on those items, it's going to bring up the actual activity in the LMS. So when they click on, the module overview, they're going to get those outcomes and possibly that, the little graphic. When they click on the assignment link, it's going to pop up the assignment, and it's going to have, what they have to do to complete that assignment, what the grade is worth, what the, when the due date is. When they click on the test, it's going to give them the test overview. And when they click on the discussion, it's going to take them to the course discussion tool.
So the next topic that we're bringing into the conversation here is a topic of consistency. And fortunately, the tools that we get to work with, I like to focus on this a lot because they do take care of all sorts of things for us. And the way Blackboard organizes content inside of a module, where you can put these things, automatically gives us a consistency of presentation. Along the same vein, talking about consistency of organization of material, of activities inside of modules, and also of the fonts we choose to use when we're doing this. A couple of times I thought, but I want it to look better. And looking better is nice if you have the time to click that box inside the content creation tool. Arial is the font by default that gets selected by the learning management system, Blackboard. And the instant I choose to change that font, I have to remember to change it everywhere I go. So sometimes consistency just means relaxing and following what's going on. If you plan to add something better, you have to make sure that you consistently choose that. Probably one of the least favorite things I have about Blackboard is that if you want to use a different font, there's only one way to do it, and that's to, every time you open a new window, you have to pick it. And observing conventions speaks to the fact that each one of these applications that we use has a different way to describe the same thing. In D2L, the assignment upload tool is called the Dropbox. I'm sorry, I was just speaking from my Blackboard perspective. Our assignment upload tool is where we have students submit papers. Some instructors I know even use the assignment upload tool to submit tests. So it's important to use the language of convention for whatever tool is being used. The best way to access that, of course, is through the manual. Or to talk to somebody who knows, like me, or Fonz, or Cathryn. So each one of these has a standard conventional language. And I'm just trying to think of two that are different. In Blackboard, we use the My Grades tool to allow students to look at their grades in the course. And in D2L, it's called the grade book. Isn't it, Cathryn?
Yes, I believe so.
Again, following along the same lines, visual presentation also means that it's good for us to focus on keeping a consistency of design and visual presentation. The example that's we're looking at here is from a module in D2L, and the design principle that we're enjoying here is that there's a small amount of text, and then there's a graphic And then there are the links or other actions you can perform underneath it. And by breaking up the material with a picture, it adds more interest, and it allows the students to have another way to integrate maybe part of the idea of what they're reading. So using content-related graphics to break up text helps improve the visual presentation in the course material.
So I'm going to talk to you about engagement. We all talk about being engaged with our students, or our students have to be engaged with us. But there's two ways to do that. First, we have two different types of engagement. We have faculty to student and student to student. The first and foremost way that most faculty use to engage their students is through the news tool or the announcement page, depending on which LMS you're following. The second most useful form of engagement is the email. It's recommended that for best practices that you email your students a week before class and tell them how to navigate through your course, tell them how to find the syllabus, welcome them to your course, because that's what they're going to read. That's what they're going to read first, is the email from you. It also gives you a chance to make yourself more personable to your students. Another couple of useful tools that we have is discussion board. So we can set up discussions for our students. One of the best ways to get your students to engage back with you is to set up an introductory page. Hi, I'm Cathryn Brooks-Williams. My husband and I manage feral cats. I've been teaching this long, you know, that kind of thing. So to give them a glimpse at you as a person rather than another place or another person online if you're teaching online, but also in your face-to-face classes, it gives them that inside look of you that they normally don't get when you're talking to them face-to-face. You can also have your Zoom or your Blackboard Collaborate to be used as a student engagement tool. And that's what I'm talking about. Not only to hold class if you hold classes online or hybrid, but also to use for your office hours. How many of you thought of using virtual office hours? Interesting concept, huh? Okay, I've done this in both forms because NMHU, even though we're not going to have Blackboard Collaborate, when I was teaching, I used Blackboard Collaborate first before we got Zoom to hold office hours. It was great. Students can share with me what their work is, and I can take a look at it right there and see. I also used it for review sessions. Now, I know some faculty don't want to hold review sessions and others do. This is a great way for all your students to meet in one place without having to come to campus, is to use either Blackboard Collaborate or Zoom for review sessions. Your students need to engage with each other as well as you. And one of the best ways to do that is, like I said, to start the introduction discussion board, but you can also have a self-help discussion board where students go in, answer questions, and other students can respond. All you have to do as faculty members is just monitor it to make sure that the students are giving complete and correct information. It'll save you a ton of emails too. You also can have your discussion board set up so the students can respond to each other by the topics that are pertinent to your course. And finally, we come to our wiki page. Our wiki pages can be used in a couple of ways. One great example that was told me was that a professor wanted the students to find outside resources and post them on the wiki page so everybody had access to it. Another great example was the wiki page was used for the students to collaborate on a group project. And with that, they can edit, refine, redesign everything that they wanted to on the wiki page. So now you have two different ways to engage your students and for the students to engage with each other. Peter?
And so one of the last topics is to talk about building in redundancy into your course. And we're mainly talking about access points into material and out of material. Especially in the first two examples are that when you choose to set up your Blackboard course, you can add the Blackboard course calendar into the course menu. And the course menu then has, as you program your assignments and your quizzes and your discussion forums that are graded, the due dates automatically load into the calendar. Having a secondary accessible course schedule, say attached to your syllabus, which is one of the practices we do here, creates a secondary calendar course schedule area. Again, the recommended study schedule coincides with the due date calendar inside of the Blackboard LMS calendar. Inside the modules, we're going to having links to all of the assignments, the graded discussions, quizzes, and outside in the course menu area, we would have a secondary access point for the quizzes, the discussions, and the assignments. And so there would be 3 links there. And I just did it again, within elements. Redundancy inside, Cathryn.
So what he means is that if you have it, because students go to different access points.
Right.
Even though you want the students to go use one way, they're going to use different access points. So the redundancy here is to put it inside the elements for those students who go automatically to the discussion board or automatically to the assignment before they go to their course module. The other way to put it inside the elements is to make sure that your assignments and your quizzes are linked to those where they need to be so students can access them right there. And that's one of the great things about both Blackboard and D2L is they do a click and it takes them right to the quiz. Do a click, it takes them to the self-assessment. Click, it takes them to the discussion board. The students access things differently, so you want to make sure that you have built that redundancy in so they can access it no matter which way they use. Peter?
Thank you. Thank you. So we're tying this up now, and so we're going to do a review of what we spoke of. The most important elements to put in your course include these things. We spoke about making sure that that your course includes the computer requirements for a student to successfully be present online with the course. That you use a standards-based rubric maybe for design, like Quality Matters, to help ensure that your material lines up nicely and is accessible for students. To remember accessibility requirements of students who might show up in your course, using universal design for learning standards helps us think about that. Making sure that a course orientation or navigation instructions are included in your course, and that every course always have an obvious starting point. When a student gets all the way into content, making sure they have a way out is very important. And fortunately for us, we don't have to design that because it's already there. Blackboard has the breadcrumb trail, and D2L has a similar navigational tool. Organizing course material by modules helps create a consistent design for students so they know where to go next. And using consistency in the selection of fonts and design elements continues to make the course more accessible to students. Remembering to observe the conventions of the platform that you're working in reduces the number of calls that you'll get saying, I don't know what to do. Making sure that you break up text with engaging and relevant visual images helps make the presentation go better. And taking advantage of the ways that you can engage with students or ask them to engage with each other helps build a sense of community in the course, and allowing for a little redundancy of design helps people get around, making sure that the lefties can get in just the way the southpaws can. So, and that's it. Excepting for, do any of you have any questions, Dan or Paula? Is there anything you wanted to bring up today? Because we're not the only ones who know exactly what's going on here. Paula's taught online for years, and we really appreciate your presence here today.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Do I need to hit a mic or something?
No, you're doing good. We can hear you well.
Well, I've already been reminded of some things that are really important. So it's valuable to me to sit into this today, because every time I sit in on a training, I learn something new and I'm reminded of what I could be doing better. But I guess I think the thing I like to emphasize is that I like the first point that was made about keeping the student in mind throughout all of the process, because they're the end user and we're doing it all for them. So I think that was a great way to open up the lesson. And you've given me some great things to think about. I'm getting ready to revise an art appreciation class this summer, and I've already taken some, I think, valuable notes and plan on making some new design changes based on your recommendations today. So thank you for shining a light on things that need to be illuminated for making things successful for student learners online.
Oh, thanks, Paula. Thank you very much. So what we're going to do is send you an email with a short survey on it. For you distant folk, you're going to have to remember to please include any mailing instructions so we can send you your appropriate, I'm not allowed to say it, door product. But since you made it through the portal, I hope you enjoyed using Zoom today. And if you want to get together with me on how that's going to work best for you, please feel free to contact me. And thank you both.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Oh, please, Dan.
My constant concern when thinking about creating an online course for music appreciation, which is the subjects that I teach, is that I can't bear the thought of students listening to a Beethoven symphony on their telephone speaker or with earbuds that cost $3.99. And I was wondering if any of you have any thoughts or experiences regarding making sure that the course has some sort of analog to what I do in the classroom, where I teach with a $2,000 sound system.
Well, one of the things you can do is recommend that your students get decent headsets and put that in your syllabus as well as your course orientation. And do you hold labs or open hours for your students to go in and listen to the music that you're trying to get them to appreciate?
Mostly everything is done in the class itself, as it has been in the past in a traditional fashion. We listen together.
Okay. If you're going online?
No, nothing has been done online yet in terms of what I have constructed. But this is a concern of mine.
Yes, I have hearing impairment, okay? So for me, getting a decent set of headphones really helps me hear the music that I might be missing regular through the other ways. You can also, if you're, well, I was going to say, if you have decent recordings, you can put those in your LMS in your course as well. But you can always recommend that students get decent headphones and then tell them which ones are the decent headphones for them to use.
Well, the problem with that is that I have trouble even asking these folks to afford a $60 textbook. A decent set of headphones or earbuds is going to cost at least $60, more upward of $100. That's quite an investment for most folks, whereas in the classroom environment, they do not have that expense.
That's true. And
Yeah.
I have a couple of interesting ideas too. First of all, running this as a hybrid course sounds like a really interesting idea, because then the students are still showing up to experience the music at least once using a good sound environment, so to speak. And well, and the second idea is to plan ahead a bit and make sure that we have access to this technology in the library. I know that the library has some headsets. I'm not sure they're all that great, but with a little planning and some conversations between the dean and accessibility services, for instance, we could probably get a couple of really nice headsets for students that they can utilize in the library to do the study work that you're offering them online as that secondary resource.
Can I say something, Dan? I feel your pain. It's really hard to talk about the great art of the world, even in a classroom setting. For me, it has been. That's something I've had to reconcile myself to many years when you're looking at fabulous antiquities and, you know, and you're trying to show them to students. I like to get students to get out, and if they can get an experience in a museum, if you can, and your students cannot all go and experience a concert somewhere, but perhaps they can. So I encourage them, I reward them, I give them assignment, maybe extra credit. I try to get them out into the community to have a real experience with fine art.
Well, I do that. I require, in my normal classroom, I require live music of a certain sort, that they have to attend at least 2 performances. And then I also will perform for them in class live.
That's an experience. That's an awesome experience.
Great.
I'm not sure we.
Thank you very much for this presentation.
But thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Excellent. Good.
We
Well,
appreciate you coming. We're going to be
workshop.
We're going to be hosting a series of workshops, professional development workshops. We hope to get more attendees in the future, but we appreciate you and your questions and your patience, and as well as your time. Thank you kindly.
Will a recording of this be available?
Yes.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. As soon as that's ready and available, I will post it and send you a message about it. In the meanwhile, we're going to start off with that little survey. We're going to ask for some suggestions for best other times to offer these workshops for you all, and ask a few questions about today's workshop. So thank you all very much for coming today. And if there's nothing else, I'll sign off.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Nice to meet everybody.
And nice to meet you.
Thanks again, Fonz.
Yeah, no problem.
Bye-bye.